Are you looking to start a podcast? Then see this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify. Get helpful audience building stats and all the support you need to sound your best. They can even do video. Bring your podcast to life and have your voice heard here, there, and everywhere with Libsyn. Again, see our show notes for our unique Libsyn promo code and get podcasting.
You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 7, Episode 261.
Quiet Quitting the Paranormal, Fleshy Sacks in England, Black Dog Syndrome, and the X37B is back.
Yeah. So welcome to the podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And we are here to do a quick podcast for you.
Yes.
I threaten that, and it's always an hour long. Just kind of is what it is. But it might be short this time. So anyway, moving back into the podcast, let's tell you all about it. I'm Greg, and she's Omi, and we do the CreepGeeks Podcast, where we talk about all sorts of stuff we find to be interesting. Mm-hmm. Yep. So typically paranormal and, sort of scope.
And weird in general.
Yeah, just weird and stuff like that. Stuff we find to be interesting and you never know. It's like what's those bags you reach into and whatever you get is what you get?
Grab bag? Mixed bag?
Yes, crap bag. That's what it is.
Random pick?
Mystery bag?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you guys want to call the show and leave us a message, you can. That's going to be 575-208-4025. Or you can email us anytime, contact@creepgeeks.com.
Yeah. Okay, so if you don't know, we've been doing a podcast for a while. We got over 7 seasons, 261 episodes for you to choose from when you're bored or doing the vacuum, cleaning, or whatever. I can't think of things. It's late for us because here's the scoop. We go and we do events and we vend these events and we talk about our podcast while we're there and we talk to the fine people that show up. And at the same time, we sell them little knickknacks. Mm-hmm. Because that's what brings them over. They're like, ooh, a knickknack. I've gone to a conference, a paranormal conference, a cryptid conference, a monster conference, whatever. Right? Mm-hmm. And what happens? They see some knickknacks and they come running over and they're like, hey.
They want to buy something to, kind of remind them that they went to the event, or they have something in mind. They want to get something Bigfoot or paranormal or whatever.
Yes, knickknacks. So anyway, we're doing CryptiCon. CryptiCon is one of these events that's kind of like, I don't want to put it on the same scale as San Diego Comic-Con because it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be great if it was, but at the same time, it would be a tremendous undertaking. Used to live in San Diego a long time ago, and I went, and I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this thing is, they have like movie stars, and they basically do trailers and promotions and stuff for all these stars. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Well, CryptiCon's kind of the same way. It's held in Kentucky, and we're going.
Yeah.
We went last year, and anyway.
We'll put a link in the show notes, but CryptiCon is one of the larger cryptid, paranormal, Bigfooty, alien conferences that happens here towards the East Coast. So we really like doing it, but it's been a long week, folks, so Greg's a little tired.
Oh, you're like, I'm not tired. You're tired. Mm-hmm. All right, so anyway, we're going to be doing that, and we are going to enjoy the peoples that come up and say, what's a podcast? It's like, okay. Yeah. So, anyway, stop looking at me like that. just stop. I see what you're doing. You're giving me the stink eye, the side eye, and I'm about to tell you about all sorts of cool stuff. Mm-hmm. And you just get ready. See, because I should have titled this podcast Quiet Quitting Omi in the podcast for tonight. So, loaded up the van. We got water because we're supposed to stay hydrated. Right? Mm-hmm. Sodas. It's going to be delicious. Now she's just very angry. That's cool. Okay, so the podcast has a lot of stuff to talk about. And one of the things I come across that I thought was really interesting was the idea of quiet quitting.
Yeah.
It's a trend.
Yeah. And
in case you don't know, I am wildly not famous at all on TikTok, but it is something that sort of carried me through an occupied time, sitting around with a broken neck, and just, it was a thing, right? So TikTok was there, and I was like, this is, kind of like Vines. I liked Vines because it was like 5 to 7 seconds or whatever, and you had a good time and you moved on, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the trend of quiet quitting show up where it sort of said, hey, look, you should quiet quit instead of actually quit.
And it's been a big topic in the news, like Wall Street Journal and New York Post, they've done articles about it. So,
and the definition of quiet quitting really depends on what side of the internet you're on. If you're on the corporate side, they're pretty disparaging towards it.
Yeah.
But if you're on the worker bee side, like LinkedIn had a really good sort of description of it or definition of it. So, and then you have the sort of in the middle, riding right down the road. And that's the definition that I picked.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what quiet quitting is, here's what they say. Quiet quitting refers to doing the minimum requirements of one's job and putting in no more time, effort, or enthusiasm other than absolutely necessary. I'm like, oh. Now, some websites, like the corporate side, basically make it out like you're just taking their money.
Yeah. Like, only clocking in
I can't believe
when your shift starts. Well,
that you don't want to work. Yeah. I can't believe that, you want me to pay you, for, yeah. And I don't want to be too disparaging
takes their
of it.
Full lunch. Are you kidding?
Yeah. I can't believe you don't want to work holidays. I can't believe you don't want to check emails on the holidays. I can't believe you're on vacation and you didn't bring your computer with you.
Yeah.
Like what? And it is definitely a thing. And if you've worked and it seems like this quiet quitting thing has more of a sort of a corporate sort of twang to it. And so if you've ever worked in an office somewhere or somewhere that is kind of a corporate setting, but churns out like numbers, like if numbers are important, you probably have run across that situation like, oh, hey, you're leaving for the day? Hey, let me take 5 minutes so we can talk about something, and you're just trying to go. Or, hey, you mind if I call you 17 times? Or I know it's Saturday and you were, hey. And, and a lot of people are like, well, you should do that because that's the job and you should, strive for success and that's what you got to do to get ahead and all this crazy stuff. Or, oh, hey, your salary. So, that's the expectation and you got to meet the expectations. And I get where all that's coming from. If you're sort of in the middle management side up to the managerial level, you kind of look at that because, you want the company to succeed.
But, I mean, even before the pandemic, large companies, corporations, factories, large jobs with a significant worker base haven't offered that same incentive that previous generations of workers are used to. Like, oh, you'll be rewarded if you show up early and do your overtime and stuff like that. But we have a highly talented workforce in general in the United States, and we have a lot of people. So that whole showing up for work, well, you have like 40% of your staff showing up for work on time or, so there's no incentive these days because the likelihood of promotion or doing well is hard because the job market's saturated.
See, here's what, and kind of how I look at it is where there should be appreciation, there's just expectation.
Exactly.
They should appreciate you, missing birthdays and doing all that stuff, trying to push, do the thing, right?
Yeah.
You should get a job and you should work that job. And that's all there is, right?
Yeah.
And they want you to work and don't take vacation and do all that stuff.
And I do want to put in right here, everything we've just said does differentiate quiet quitting from flat out ghosting, which is another term.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about ghosting.
So,
because that's
ghosting is just up and not showing up ever again.
Yeah.
Or disappearing from the public eye or, things like that,
Yeah. And I kind of bring this up because of the trend that I've seen, and it seems like it's starting to have some, their eyes are on it. And then now we've got all this stuff going on with, Twitter, with like Elon Musk and saying, it's going to be super hardcore and, this is the expectation. Then you got all these other corporate people, like one of them was on Shark Tank, where basically he was like, if you're not, I can't remember exactly what it is, but if you're not spending, if you're not doing overtime or if you're not available 24 hours a day, then, you're not for me, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so the expectation that you're supposed to do all this stuff and basically put everything aside from your personal life and your family life ahead, and do it for the company, take it, do it for the company good. That's shifting, and I'm glad it is. It should, because I was in the military. We did what we had to do. We, you missed birthdays and all that stuff, but I feel in a lot of ways they tried to appreciate you. And for every opinion that's out there, my opinion is going to wildly vary from someone else's. Going to be like that guy, and it is what it is.
And like you said, you were in the military. You feel that there was some balance or at least some reward or understanding for the sacrifices you made. Whereas being in corporate America for over a decade for you, way over a decade, and over 15, 16 years for me, the country is not at risk if I don't do mandatory Christmas overtime.
Yeah, or hey, there's a hurricane, if there's a hurricane, we got to help our customers. And you're like, well, do we come in or not? It's kind of dangerous. The governor has declared a state of emergency. Do we come in or not? Well, we're going to leave it up to you. I'll be here, but it's like, come on, man.
Let's go ahead and try to bring it back to quiet quitting.
I'm trying to get it there. So anyway, the idea of quiet quitting, I think, is being missed. And so really the idea of quiet quitting kind of goes back to the employment, like your hire. And I'm going to circle up, so just stop, right? When you go in there and you sit down in your interview and you say, these are the qualifications that I have. These are the skills that I'm bringing to the table. If you like those skills and we come to an arrangement where I will work for you, these are the expectations that you've set, and I agree to them. And we all know that when you get in the job, the expectations usually don't necessarily match. There's more to it.
Yeah.
Right. Even though you've entered into a contract that says, I will do this and you will give me this much money, there's still the expectation that you'll do more for less. Right. Now, I'm sort of quiet quitting, not the paranormal, but paranormal freaking shows I see on TV. The expectation is that my enthusiasm and exuberance towards the paranormal is going to exceed the crappy shows that I've been seeing.
So are you quiet quitting the culture of paranormal, which is to always
No, I just said television shows.
I know, but okay. So
I know where you're going. I'm not going down that path, but
okay.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm not going to watch them anymore. So not all of them. I'm going to be very selective in what I watch.
And I agree, because that speaks to everything we just said earlier. The whole, clocking in early for work. For paranormal shows, it'd be being the first to watch this or that, or getting involved in being a fan of the latest, and
maybe taking notes because you think there's maybe one or two facts that you weren't aware of, and you're like, yes, I'm going to do all my research and I'm going to plan adventures and go out there and find out what's going on. And what's happening is, I feel like a lot of it is the okie doke. You watch some shows where they turn around and they take something that you've done research on, that you've just done, casual internet type research, and you realize, wow, they are way off on this. And they don't care.
Yeah.
But they expect me to be there. They expect me to watch this show. They expect me to like this show. They expect me to, to do all that sort of thing. And I don't care. They're churning these things out, and they've been doing it for a while. And I'm to the point where I don't even want to watch them anymore. I'm quiet quitting paranormal shows in general and some of the culture.
Okay.
And this is kind of getting to this, they don't, and it's because they don't care. To them, they're just making a show. And I know a lot of people that make the show, the people that actually produce and film and actually create the show, aren't really paranormal people. They are there to make shows. That's what they do. And that's their vocation. And I get it.
Yeah.
There are some shows where the people enjoy the paranormal and they're into it.
Yeah.
And you can tell because they're typically better shows. So quite quitting the paranormal sort of television shows. And this includes things like Ancient Aliens. And I'm not there anymore. I'm quiet quitting, which doesn't mean I'm going to go away. I'm going to be there. I'll do my due diligence if it's interesting.
Now, I do see you have a note here that you're also going to, along with the quiet quitting, being selective in topics.
Yeah, we're going to start doing things on our podcast that are different.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deal. UFOs are great.
That's what I wanted to talk about, yeah.
We're going to do them. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to talk about stuff that obviously appears to be military.
Now, if it does come up in future upcoming episodes, that means it's struck an obvious nerve.
Yeah, there's something about it that makes it worth talking about.
I am tired of chasing this, not the disclosure, because I will always chase disclosure because I want disclosure, but this constant, ooh, they said this, or ooh, this document has 12 words that aren't grayed out, you know?
We're going to have full disclosure in 179 days.
Yeah, I'm not going to chase that. And when there's like a leaked article or document and it's mostly redacted, I'm not going to feed into that because I feel that you were right with that whole, this is yet another distraction.
Right.
However, I'm one of those holdouts that I want to believe. I want the aliens.
I do too. I totally.
You know?
But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? We've been there, done that, seen this.
I'm getting jaded. And
you know, why would UFOs fly in a 6V chevron type configuration? It's like, it's obviously military.
Or worse, like some of the shows we're going to quit watching where it's the same footage over and over again. And I can go out, I could have gone out a month ago and captured the same UFO footage because it's Starlink.
Yeah, stop showing me Starlink. Yes. It's like, oh, what is that? Oh my God, that's a star there. Stop showing me the Artemis launch.
Yeah.
And other spacecraft that are going up there. So anyway, that's kind of what I mean by it. We're going to start doing different sort of topics and things. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. We like Bigfoot and we like all that stuff. We've been talking about it for off and on for a while. We don't dig entirely too deep into it because, as we've said in previous podcast episodes, you know, I can't just grab onto one subject and make that my life's work. That's just boring to me.
Yeah.
I just can't. But I'm always interested in it. But, you know, don't stop showing me like a giant snapping turtle and telling me, do you see that? That's Okopogo. It's like, that is a big ass snapping turtle.
Yeah.
I have seen big snapping turtles. When you see like a garbage can lid sized snapping turtle swimming by and you're like, wow, that thing is very big, and big catfish and everything.
Yeah.
So we're going to start looking at things that are interesting, you know.
Yeah.
More interesting to us. So some of the stuff that we see and hear all the time that everybody hears and sees and knows, we're just not going to feed into it.
Yeah. And hopefully that has a positive effect because while quiet quitting is changing employment and job and work culture, maybe quiet quitting some of these paranormal things and not feeding into it will change the paranormal community.
Yeah, I think it's just too much. There's paranormal now, you know, I find that we watch paranormal shows now just because of humor or things that are in the show, not the actual content.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, well, okay, whatever. But, you know, maybe the idea is I'll do my bare minimum because, you know, my expectation and the agreement we reached during the employment and onboarding session of my adventures into the paranormal, I'm going to do my part, but I'm not going to do more because you expect me to do more because you don't appreciate it. So appreciation and expectation.
Oh, that's a whole nother can of worms.
It's like, oh, you know, yeah. So you expect me to put up 60 hours a week, but you don't appreciate it, you know? And yeah. It's a thing. So, you know, maybe it's sort of probably convoluted this thought process, but if you have any suggestions of maybe some really good shows or something, or some really good research thing, you know, maybe something,
yeah,
you know, let us know. It'd be kind of cool to talk about. But speaking of fleshy sacks,
perfect transition there.
Well, okay, I had to click on it, right? Because I'm sitting there, it's like, And the article basically is like weird white fleshy sacks wash up on the beach.
Yeah.
Never seen anything like it.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm in, right? And so basically there's a picture, and everything we talk about on the podcast is available in our show notes. So we have links and everything else. And if you want to go to our website, CreepGeeks.com, you'll see the latest article, latest podcast episode with all the links there, and you can kind of take a look too, if you're interested. So anyway, it goes like this. A woman was walking her dog on a beach in England when she stumbled upon something strange. So Helen Marlowe and her pup were near Penzance, Cornwall, when she spotted a massive white sacks on the sand.
Ew.
Yeah, the odd objects were covered in seaweed, had a flesh-like consistency.
Did she touch them?
Of course she did.
Oh.
And so Marlowe made the discovery shortly after the tide went down, indicating that they could have washed up from deep ocean.
Okay.
So she said, I had no idea what it was. I couldn't match it to anything I've ever seen. I could just tell that it was organic. I've never seen anything like it. So, of course, she told Newsweek this, and yes, this article is from Newsweek. Right. I haven't been able to specifically identify them, but it appears that they're probably whale innards or whale stomach.
I could see that.
It is freaking disgusting.
It is. It looks like chewed up gum, but the size of Greg.
What do you...
I don't know. Like chewed
This
up.
is what I'm dealing with tonight.
Chewed
It's
up
late.
gum.
It's like 1:18 in the morning, and you're throwing me shade and then comparing
chewed
me
up gum the size of a human. Okay.
a white fleshy sack. Thanks.
Okay. Well, look at the little tiny dog next to it in the photo.
Oh, don't
It's the size of a human.
That dog does not give a single crap about this big fleshy weird sack, but it is huge. It's gross.
Ugh.
It's like melted flesh goo.
I wasn't going to say melted mozzarella. I was going to say chewed up
It does
gum.
kind of look like that.
Yeah.
So
Now, it's strange blobs piled on top of each other on the sand, not far from the sea. I guess they're going to have somebody look at it. I don't know. It's so disgusting.
Well, Abby Crosby, a marine conservation officer, basically told Live Science, another bastion of truth, and that this would have been really exciting identification, as it would indicate a nearby whale birth, because there is some idea that maybe it's not guts, maybe it's not stomach, maybe it's like a whale placenta type thing as big as a Volkswagen Beetle. I don't know.
That's horrid.
But it is innards. And they basically say, while it's not clear what species of whale the innards came from, it is likely a large one due to the amount. It's like, oh, so it's a big pile of whale innards. And it probably came from a whale because it's very big.
Thank you. Thank you
wow.
all for clarifying.
Yeah. So a variety of whale species can be found in the waters off the United Kingdom, including humpback whales, fin whales, and minke whales. There's also a possibility that it could be a sperm whale, although the species is rarer in that part of the world. So, and tides can cause any number of deep sea creatures and objects to wash ashore. It's not the first time a strange discovery has been made recently. So, there you go. You got to see the picture. It's disgusting. But if I seen that on the beach, I'm like, well, get back in the car. Let's go. Don't touch it. Because you want to look at it. And then you're going to have to find a stick. And when you wonder, like when you said, why you got that stick? It's exactly why I have that stick, to poke stuff like this.
But here's the thing. Nowhere in this article does it talk about the smell. And if there's one thing that happens when you poke something with a stick, the smell will usually get worse.
Okay.
And
so
I can't.
It's entirely possible. Maybe it doesn't have any smell because it looks bleached. It's white. Like it doesn't have any real fleshy appearance
If
anymore.
it's stomach lining.
Okay, look, you don't know.
Okay.
When's the last time you come across a big pile of whale goo innards on the beach and poked it with a
Not
stick?
whale goo. So I have not run across whale.
You would think.
Okay.
You would think. I'm just saying, they make perfume out of throw up. Whale ambergris. The vomitous mass.
I've run across some horrific dead stuff on the beach, and it's
okay, well, anyway, the reason why I also put this in here was for your benefit when we watch Reno 911 when they blew up, they were there playing with that whale on the beach trying to move it and stuff. Right? It was gross, right?
Yeah.
And then also on the Boys, just that show, that comic book show that we were watching on Amazon.
Yeah.
Where they went into the whale with the speedboat. Kind of the same thing. So that was for your benefit. But there you go. There's your white fleshy sacks that washed up on the beach in England.
It's awful.
Yes. Weird white fleshy sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's gross, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so. All right, we're going to take a second and play a commercial. All right, that's it. We have no sponsors for the podcast, so figured we should go ahead and put one in there, right? So anyway, kind of moving back in the podcast, there was a couple different things that I thought was pretty interesting, but I also went through and put this in here because this is really interesting sort of to me and Omi, and probably not to you, but maybe we can make it interesting to you.
Okay.
You ever heard of black dog syndrome?
No.
Okay, so let me give you some background here. We have a dog named Pepper. Pepper is more famous than we are when it comes to this kind of thing, and she is a black dog.
Oh.
And when we were going to a Tractor Supply, I don't even know why we were going to Tractor Supply, but anyway, they had a dog adoption event. Do you know why we were going?
Yes, because I wanted a big dog. I wanted a big dog.
And we already had a dog.
And he was turning out to be medium size, and I wanted, because I grew up with big
Okay, look,
dogs.
here's the deal. That's not why we were going to Tractor
And they
Supply.
had plot hounds, and plot hounds can get almost as big as Great Danes, but they're very large dogs, and I like plot hounds. So I was hoping that we'd see one of the plot hounds, but it turned out I didn't like them.
We were going to buy a leash.
No. No. I may have told you.
I feel like you.
I may have told you.
I feel like
we
maybe you were
for.
disingenuous.
I knew that particular adopt-a-thon, they were going to have 2 plot hound sisters, and they were going to have another dog, and I think that dog was adopted by the time we got there.
Well, the good thing is, and this is pretty much how it would have went, there's no way we'd bring back a dog twice as big as the 80-pound dog we already had.
I know.
No way.
I would have tried.
You would have tried, and you would not have been successful.
But I didn't like the personality from the plot hounds that were available. So
Yeah, because they're not big and lovable. They're working dogs. You got to be kind of firm with them because they need a job. That's why they tear up your crap all in your house. So anyway, this black dog syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? And
I have the opposite.
this is kind of sad because black dogs are being overlooked by adopters because they don't photograph well. Isn't that crazy? And the reason why I put that in is because we have Pepper. Pepper goes with us, and she does these conferences with us, and she sits there, and she's good. She's a good puppy. Mm-hmm. Does her thing. Right?
Yeah.
And we take pictures of her. But the idea that, you probably don't want to adopt a dog because they don't photograph well, it's like, really? Is that a thing?
That's really shallow. And
It is very shallow.
I tell people I must have the opposite of this. I didn't know black dog syndrome was a thing, but we deliberately get black dogs. Ben was black and tan.
Yeah.
Pepper was black. She was all black except for a tiny bit of white on her. And I adopt or rescue black dogs because they are often mistreated.
Yeah. Well, they also sit
in
the pounds and stuff like that for longer.
Yeah.
So black dogs get a bad rap, kind of like black cats.
Yeah.
If you kind of put it with the paranormal, whenever you talk about hellhounds and stuff, they're always black. They're always like big and dark and ominous looking. And I think it's anyway, I didn't know that was a thing, that black dogs are being overlooked by adopters because they don't photograph well. I mean, I knew that black dogs didn't do well for adoptions because they're black. Same thing with like the, black cats and all that other stuff. So
yeah,
it was kind of a weird thing. So I figured I'd put that in there because it actually it has a name. It's like black dog syndrome.
You know what?
And when I seen black dog syndrome, I thought these were people seeing black dogs. I already came across the white fleshy sacks in England, and I'm like, oh man, because people talk about seeing the black dogs.
Yeah.
And when it's like they have a name for them too. And when you see black dogs, it usually means bad stuff's going to happen. And you had episodes from TV show Supernatural. They talk about black dogs. Doctor Who had black dogs.
Yeah, but hey.
I think Sherlock Holmes had black dog, Hounds of Baskervilles, but there was also black dogs. So anyway, that's what I was thinking. But evidently,
if these people who have black dog syndrome are the same people who keep sending in blurry UFO photos, I mean, sounds like it's not the UFO or the black dog. Sounds like it's you trying to take a picture.
Yeah. I think your subject matter is fine. I think it's the photographer. And black dogs are hard to take. Anything with fur can be hard to take a picture of. And with a black dog, you lose detail, contrast and detail, with some of the cameras, and especially if it's phased focus or, phase autofocus for, anyway, not to go too deep. But so there you go. Black dog syndrome. Now, if you want to take a picture of a black dog, there's ways to do it. You can buy a flashlight, but don't let them sit in a dog pound.
Yeah. Because
they don't photograph well. So anyway, black dogs, that was not what I was originally thinking, but it made sense. I'm like, oh, we adopted a black dog because they had a sign when we went and got Pepper. Yeah. Like all black dogs. No, what did it say?
It was the Black Dog Days of Summer.
Yeah.
So all black dogs were $25. Well, when Greg found Pepper, because I was kind of disheartened that the dogs I was looking for, I just didn't connect with.
She was in a tiny cage on top of a big dog's big cage.
You just went and got her cage.
Yeah, I'm like, can I take this dog for a walk? Because she looked very hot and she looked like she needed a drink and she didn't look happy.
Yeah. And we ended up getting Pepper for $20, but then they asked us for $5 for her harness. So we didn't get her for $25. We technically got her for $20. So
yet they got us. We still paid $5 extra. And so we brought her home, and our big dog Ben was just destroyed. He's like, I cannot believe you didn't consult me first. So,
and then she attacked your mom's cat statue.
Yeah, she pretty much embarrassed herself, barking at a cat statue in the fireplace, just going crazy. We thought somebody was breaking in the house. It was a intruder alert. It's a freaking statue. That's okay. She woke me up for a shadow on the wall one time. I knew somebody was coming in the house. As much noise as she was making, it was a freaking shadow on the wall. And then when I pointed it out, she got very embarrassed. But yeah, I had a gun out. I'm like, oh shit, somebody's in the house. She is like all of her hair standing up, just making these biggest little dog barks, which is like beep, 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 right? Freaking shadow on the wall. I'm like, I knew my time had ended. It's like, that's it. I'm done. Something bad's going to happen. So speaking of something bad, this X37B that nobody knows anything about, that NASA's been helping the Space Force, because this thing has been up there since before there was a Space Force.
Oh.
We've talked about this thing several times, but the reason why I put it in here in this particular article is that it looks, you probably have seen it. It looks like a sort of a smaller version of the space shuttle, but it doesn't have a cockpit because it doesn't need it. It's an autonomous vehicle. They launch it, it goes up in orbit, it does its own thing, and then when it's done, it comes home.
Okay. That sounds simple.
I'm sure it's not simple, but I mean, it sounds simplistic in the way that they describe it, right?
Yeah.
And so this X-37 Bravo orbital test vehicle concludes its 6th successful mission. And it has a picture, and it basically, this is what the Space Force has now. They don't really tell you what it does. Everything it does is secret. And so how many times have people seen this thing coming in and out of the atmosphere? Like, what is that? It's not a satellite. What is that, right? So the X-37B orbital test vehicle, OTV-6, or OTV-6, the U.S. Space Force's unmanned reusable space plane is what they're calling it, successfully deorbited and landed at NASA's Kennedy Space Center shuttle landing facility. Because it lands like a shuttle. It just it has nobody in it, right?
Yeah.
And so this thing does secret missions and stuff like that. But the thing about it is like, I think its last mission was 700 and something days.
908 days.
That's what it was, 908 days.
2.48 years.
Which was the last time we talked about it. Yeah. Seriously. It was like, what is this thing doing up there? And they don't really tell you what it does. And it has the ability to carry some payload. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing could do all sorts of cool stuff. But the one thing that really sort of caught my attention was one of the experiments it was doing.
Yeah.
And it was doing it for the Naval Research Laboratory's photovoltaic radio frequency antenna module. So the experiment successfully harnessed solar rays outside of Earth's atmosphere and aimed, right, to transmit power to the ground in the form of radio frequency microwave energy.
Wow. Okay.
So this thing took sunlight and then basically beamed a microwave down to the planet. So I thought that was like, well, what is that? And so we had actually talked about directed energy weapons, or DEW is the acronym you see.
Yeah. And didn't we talk about the patents for some of that too a couple years ago?
Yeah, and we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and our podcast went away for a while. We lost all of our social media junk. Yeah. But yeah, people were saying like in California that is basically when these fires happen that, hey, this is a directed energy weapon. And same thing in Tennessee. Hey, it was that RV that blew up. Oh, it's a directed energy weapon. Yeah. Right. Well, here you go. You got this thing coming back after a long mission. It takes sunlight and it's directing a microwave radio transmission back down to the planet.
Yeah. Oh, on top of validating and improving the precision of space environment models. So
what is it actually doing? Because these are like little brochure blurbs where you're like, what? These are like bad job descriptions. We're like, that sounds amazing. Go in there and it's like, you're going to take this broom and you're going to push these widgets, these leftover remnants of the plastic process that makes these widgets in a corner, sort them by color, right? Put them in their designated receptacles, and you're going to do this all freaking day long, and that's it. And you read the description, you're like, wow, it sounds like I'm doing work for all mankind. Mm-hmm. And you're not.
But these very vague descriptions, as well as like the one flat statement of the microwave energy, that leads to so much speculation. And again, we go back to the quiet quitting certain topics. That's where all this speculation gets me mad, because I'm sitting here reading this article. I'm like, directed energy, precision of space environments and things like that. I'm like, oh, maybe we'll be able to direct lasers or using the sun to shoot out an asteroid that might come towards Earth or worse. And that's just feeding into that whole speculation, that whole clickbait thing. So,
well, here's what I think.
Yeah.
I think if you're hearing about, I believe this since I was a Ute. Right? A Ute. Yeah. If you're hearing about it, it's already happened. It's been in play for a long time.
Okay.
And the idea is that you're probably going to see it. If it gets to the point where they're like, okay, either A, some money can be made off the technology, or B, there's a possibility you might actually see it, they're going to tell you about it. So if this thing is coming back where it successfully did its thing in its experiment of taking sunlight and using it as a beam of energy, right? Radio frequency, microwave, whatever you want to call it, energy down to the planet. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. And I think that when they give you a little blurb like this and you say, what do you got? Look what they're doing. It's like, yeah, we told you about that. We've been doing that for a while. To the extent and scale and the purpose, they don't really say.
Yeah. But
I mean, what if directing this microwave radio frequency transmission stuff is designed to knock out communications somewhere? Or, maybe melt a house or some kind of facility.
And see, I would like to think less of directing it back towards the Earth, whether for valid wartime purposes or off the books nefarious purposes. I kind of want to stick to the whole, I don't know, Armageddon, we're going to save ourselves from a meteor or something, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I would...
Or alien invaders.
Or maybe somebody that may or may not just not be right and want to launch nuclear weapons and destroy all mankind.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is more likely to happen.
Yeah.
So, who knows? But yeah, they've done all sorts of things with this thing. And they've tested and basically went through different thermal coatings and printed electronic materials and radiation shielding and all. So they've done a bunch of stuff with this thing, and they fly it out there, right? And they've been investigating long-term duration for space exposure on seeds and all sorts. So it's basically a test lab, and it was NASA's test lab or the Air Force's test lab. Now it's the Space Force's test lab.
Huh.
And this thing has been up there just quietly doing its thing for a long time, and you hear hardly anything about it. But when they said that they're basically taking a beam of energy and shooting it back down to the earth and they're using solar power to do it, I'm like, wow, that's kind of a reusable thing. I think it'd last 1,000 years up there. Just every once in a while, just zapping something. So, you know what I mean? So, you need to do, it's like it'd be a mythos kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. And see, they're telling you. And I think that's part of what's going on with the whole disclosure thing and everything else, is that they're actually sort of telling you what's going on. And they're just telling you the brochure, the back of the brochure, right? And letting everybody else make their own determination or whatever. And you've got people going crazy, people not caring, and people in the middle. And they're just like, there you go. Well, that's perfect. It's all a diversionary tactic.
Diversionary and leading back to our original thing, the whole quiet quitting. I can't stand some of these diversions and over speculation.
I'm just not going to get into it. So this appears to be some kind of, because this is on the United States Space Forces website. So I think this is something that's probably real. I just thought it was kind of interesting. So, you know, I mean, this particular episode of our paranormal based podcast, we don't have a whole lot of paranormal stuff. We don't, not this time. I mean, we could have talked about black dogs and stuff, but I'd like to, you know, like Big Shook. That was the one we were talking about. So, but I mean, we're not going to. So the closest we got to paranormal this particular time was the wild, weird, white fleshy sacks rolling up on the beach, and you know. And I started looking for that stupid turtle. Allegedly, there was a monster turtle when I first read it. It was like caught in a lake around here, like Kerr Lake in North Carolina. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like Kerr Dam?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't. It was in Minnesota.
Oh.
So I'm like, I don't care anymore. And it was a big turtle. Because we were going to do megafauna. You know, and see how megafauna can be misidentified as cryptids. Or do megafauna actually count as cryptids? Or what separates them, that sort of thing. But it didn't have it. So anyway, there you go. I think at this particular point, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll be talking about different things. But we are going to CryptidCon.
Yes.
And there's lots of interesting people there at CryptidCon. Vendors are there, and a lot of the vendors have their own podcast shows and have their own interest in the paranormal and the wild and weird and wacky and cryptid stuff like Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs and all that sort of thing. So we look forward to it. It should be good. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to CryptidCon in Kentucky, like in Lexington, where it's been the past 3 years or so, you probably should. I think it's an event that's worth the money.
I'm going to give people a link to that turtle you were talking about just because.
Because it's just a big turtle?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you could do that. That would be interesting. Show them people big
But guys, we will be at CryptidCon, so if you are in Kentucky, stop by the CreepGeeks booth, please.
Yeah, stop by and say hello, and we will answer all your questions. So, or at least we try to. But anyway, there you go. That's all we got for this particular episode of the podcast. We do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, there you go. So, yeah. You got anything?
Nope.
Yeah, that's nice. All right, anyway. See you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.